Welcome to this edition of Head to Head. I'm your host, Cam McKinney, and this is episode number 304 of the podcast. And on this episode, I'm talking about the career of Grayson Allen of the Phoenix Suns. Since the minute he played college basketball, Grayson Allen has been viewed as a villain. He was one of those Duke Blue Devils that everyone agrees to dislike, in the same vein as Christian Laettner and J.J. Redick. And as a player, he's been called dirty for a number of tripping incidents. After being a first-round draft pick, his career in the league had been underwhelming. The Utah Jazz traded him to the Memphis Grizzlies, the Memphis Grizzlies traded him to the Milwaukee Bucks, and the Milwaukee Bucks traded him to the Phoenix Suns. He had been a role player who wasn't having that much of an impact, and if he was, it wasn't consistent enough. I also think it's interesting to mention that Grayson Allen was drafted ahead of Jalen Brunson. This season with the Phoenix Suns, Grayson Allen has flourished. Currently, he's the NBA league leader in three-point percentage at 48%. The second best is Luke Kennard at 45. Allen has had 3 30-point scoring nights with the Phoenix Suns this season. Previously, he had only scored 30 twice in his entire career. He's also averaging career high in points, 13.8, 3.1 assists, and rebounds with 3.8. I was one of the many wondering why there was ever hype around this particular player. And this season, for the first time, I'm seeing why, from a basketball standpoint, he can contribute to a team. I personally like it when a player in the NBA proves me wrong. I thought Allen was just a pest, but this year he's a real factor with the Phoenix Suns. And I'm not saying that I now view him as a future all-star or anything, but now I believe he has a role that he's going to stay in the league. If you had told me 2 years from now at the beginning of this season that Grayson Allen would no longer be in the league, I wouldn't be that shocked. He is now a real contributor to a basketball team. I could see his career going another 10 to 12 years at this point. I really looked at his time with the Milwaukee Bucks as a failure. He had everything going for him. He was playing with Giannis. He was playing with Drew Holiday. He was playing with Chris Middleton. He was playing with Bobby Porter. He was playing with Brook Lopez. That team was stacked, and Grayson Allen had flashes of being a decent player with the Milwaukee Bucks, but he wasn't consistent enough, and that's why that team moved on from him. So why exactly have I been paying attention to Grayson Allen this year? Because his team, the Phoenix Suns, had huge expectations which they are not reaching, and I look at him as one of the lone bright spots on the team. Yes, they have the free stars in Kevin Booker, Bradley Beal, and Kevin Durant, and all three are putting up stats, but it's not leading to a lot of winning. The Suns at 41-29 are currently the 7th seed in the Western Conference. If they finish at that spot, they would have to play in the play-in tournament. This is not a team who people thought would be in the play-in tournament. They thought they would be legitimate NBA title contenders. They have become a bit of an afterthought. And Grayson Allen, of all people, has been a bit of a pleasant surprise when I watch the Phoenix Suns play. Like, he is really contributing to that team offensively in a way I never would have imagined. Again, the man is leading the league in three-point percentage. He's never going to be a star himself, but this season with the Suns, he's proving he can be a reliable role player who at times can step up his game and have 3 nights a year where he scores 30 points a game. On March 20th, Grayson Allen matched a franchise record with 9 3-pointers against the Philadelphia 76ers. Again, the man with the all-time record for 3-pointers in a game for the Phoenix Suns is not Steve Nash. It's not one of their all-time greats. It is Grayson Allen. Grayson Allen has really stepped up his game this season for the Phoenix Suns, and it's time that people start paying attention to it. Again, I'm not saying that he's becoming a great player, but I think he's been really a lone bright spot for the Phoenix Suns, and I feel like it's under the radar because of how disappointing the Phoenix Suns have been this season. Think about where they would be without Grayson Allen. That's insane to think about. Grayson Allen is kind of holding this team together. He is the one playing out of his mind. He is the one exceeding expectations. Kevin Durant is doing Kevin Durant type things. Devin Booker is doing Devin Booker type things. And occasionally Bradley Beal is being Bradley Beal. But Grayson Allen has been a difference maker for the Phoenix Suns. And this is not something I ever could have imagined. And I think we as basketball fans need to start talking about Grayson Allen's actual game on the court instead of his weird antics, instead of him playing for Duke. It's time to change the narrative around Grayson Allen. But that's not happening because he's on a team that is disappointing many. And the Suns' problem is they are a really bad defensive team. And just a few years ago when they made the NBA Finals, they played defense with the likes of Chris Paul and Mikal Bridges. Yes, the Suns have a big three, but none of the free stars they have are known for their defensive play. And the big threes who have won, the 08 Celtics with Pierce, Garnett, and Allen, the Heat with LeBron, Wade, and Bosh, Steph, Clay, and Draymond with the Warriors, had at least one player playing elite defense. There have been so many great duos in basketball who have been great offensive players. Remember when the Denver Nuggets had Allen Iverson and Carmelo Anthony? That duo won absolutely nothing. You need to do more as a duo or trio than score the basketball. And unfortunately, that's all the Phoenix Suns are doing this season. They are scoring the basketball, but they are not defending at all. The LA Clippers, their big three is winning at a high rate this season with James Harden, Paul George, and Kawhi Leonard because two of those players they have are elite defensive players. You can't just win playing offense in today's NBA. And what is it going to take for Kevin Durant to learn that lesson? It didn't work in Brooklyn when you had Kyrie and James Harden because those guys didn't play defense. Now it's not working with the Phoenix Suns because those two stars that you've aligned yourself with aren't playing defense. Kevin Durant is an all-time great scorer, but if he's ever going to win a championship ever again, he's going to have to join up with some elite defensive players because Bradley Beal and Devin Booker ain't it. They are really good offensive players, but defensively, they are not much. I also have my own feelings about Devin Booker. Like, he's playing point guard basically, and he's not a point guard. He was flourishing when he was playing with Chris Paul because he got to play off the ball more. But with Kevin Durant and Bradley Beal, that's not happening a lot. You know who would be the ideal partner for Devin Booker? If the Phoenix Suns made a big swing this offseason and got Trae Young, could you imagine a backcourt with Devin Booker and Trae Young? That would get people to be afraid of you. That would actually be successful because Trae Young is a real point guard. Say what you want about Trae Young. He is one of the best passers in all of basketball. And him teamed with Devin Booker, that is a backcourt you could have in Phoenix for the next 10 years. So as you can see, Grayson Allen kind of has had bad luck with the teams that he's joined. I mean, he joined a Milwaukee Bucks team he thought was going to be competing for an NBA championship, and then they didn't. They underachieved in the playoffs, and now he's on a Phoenix Suns team that really isn't ever going to make it to the Western Conference Finals. Like, I would be absolutely shocked if this version of the Phoenix Suns made it all the way to the NBA Western Conference Finals. I think they have a decent head coach in Frank Vogel, but it's not working with the Phoenix Suns right now. So instead of talking about what a breakout season that Grayson Allen is having, we're talking about the disappointment of the Phoenix Suns. That is something I find kind of annoying when it comes to following the NBA, is that we look at stars on a team and we go, oh, this team has all of these stars and they're not winning, so we no longer pay attention to them because they're not winning at the rate we thought they were going to. So we missed out when young players begin to develop. That's what I think is happening with Grayson Allen. Yes, he's 28 years old, but he's having his moment in the league right now. He is really succeeding with the Phoenix Suns, but nobody is really paying attention to it because the Phoenix Suns are not the team we thought they were. They're not competing with the Denver Nuggets. They're not competing with the Clippers, so they've become a bit of an afterthought. And when people bring up the Phoenix Suns, they talk about the fact that they're not a good basketball team. And that's what kind of irritates me about the NBA. It's all about the stars. We can only talk about Paul George. We can only talk about LeBron James. We can only talk about Kawhi Leonard. Sometimes it's good to talk about a role player who is becoming a good basketball player. And that's what's happening with Grayson Allen. He's not a superstar player. He's likely never going to make an all-star game, but he has really taken on a pivotal role on the Phoenix Suns. If you've ever listened to this podcast before, you know I'm a fan of the Boston Celtics, and I love talking about Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, and Kristaps Porzingis. They are the stars on the Boston Celtics, but I also love to talk about Derek White because he's a role player who does a lot for that team, and he doesn't get the admiration he deserves. There was talk about him possibly being an all-star. It didn't happen, but I feel like he's on that same level with Grayson Allen. Grayson Allen is really one of the reasons to pay attention to the Phoenix Suns. Allen, who has played 64 games this season for the Suns, has 183 free-pointers this year. That's 8th most on the Phoenix Suns. He has a chance to get higher and higher on that list. And if you've ever watched the Phoenix Suns, you know they have impressive free-point shooters in their history. He's tied with Devin Booker already. He's ahead of the likes of Steve Nash and Joe Johnson. Number 1 on the list, if you're interested, is Quentin Richardson. I'm just saying I did not go into the season expecting Grayson Allen to be the best free-point shooter in the league, yet here we are, and I believe he deserves credit for getting there because, again, he was an afterthought for me heading into this season. He didn't work out with the Milwaukee Bucks. He wasn't a good fit for that team, and now he's here in Phoenix, and he's resurrecting his career. And the fact that he's the bright spot on a team that has Kevin Durant, Devin Booker, and Bradley Beal. That's the most impressive thing about him. The thing that interests me most about the Phoenix Suns right now is Grayson Allen. Now, maybe that says something about the state of that team, that they're not where they're supposed to be, but I also think it says something about Grayson Allen, that he is the thing that you want to watch when you watch the Phoenix Suns right now. The Suns are a team, I don't know what the long-term future looks for that team. They have Bradley Beal for a while. Kevin Durant, you never know if Kevin Durant wants to remain with your team. Who would be shocked if this offseason Kevin Durant says, I want out of Phoenix? But I do know one thing, that long term, they should consider keeping Grayson Allen. He fits that team. He fits well with Devin Booker. He's become a lethal free-point shooter. Again, my dream scenario with the Phoenix Suns next season is they find a way to get Trae Young, because a backcourt of Devin Booker and Trae Young would be amazing. And then think about Grayson Allen, the league leader in free-point shooting, playing with the likes of Devin Booker and Trae Young. Then you have something interesting. The problem with the Phoenix Suns right now is they have the stars, but they're not interesting, and they don't play defense. Yeah, adding Trae Young doesn't help on the defensive side of things, but I also think it makes the Phoenix Suns a younger team. I do want this on the record. I am going to lose my mind if Frank Vogel loses his job after one season with the Phoenix Suns. Kevin Durant cannot keep doing this. He let Steve Nash take the fall in Brooklyn. That's fine. You cannot do it again with the Phoenix Suns. Frank Vogel is not the problem with the Phoenix Suns, the same way he wasn't the problem with the LA Lakers. The problem is you just can't force free star players to fit together. It might not happen. Russell Westbrook, Anthony Davis, and LeBron James didn't make sense. Now with the Phoenix Suns, I'm wondering if Kevin Durant, Devin Booker, and Bradley Beal make sense together. Right now, I'm leaning towards no, they don't make sense. They're not winning basketball games. They're not playing defense, and they're not that entertaining of a product. Yes, they're putting up numbers, but you're kind of numb to watching them. Once upon a time, the Phoenix Suns were the most entertaining team in the league. They had Steve Nash. They had Sean Marion. They were loaded. They had Amare Stoudemire. That's a team that you wanted to watch. Did that team play defense? No, but offensively, they were spectacular. This Phoenix Suns team is not that. They don't play elite defense, and they're not a super elite offensive unit either. All of the money is in those free star players. That's the problem. They're not super deep, but the one bright spot has come out of nowhere, and that's been Grayson Allen, and that kind of feels like an accident. Who knows if they really thought that Grayson Allen would be this big of a factor for the team. By accident, he's the bright spot. I don't even think they planned on this. I'm not giving them credit. I'm giving all the credit to Grayson Allen for his breakout season. With March Madness going on, I do think it's an interesting time to talk about the name Grayson Allen, because he was a great villain for college basketball. And again, I talked about J.J. Redick. I talked about Christian Laettner. We cared about those figures because those guys would play 3 or 4 years in college basketball, and they would be villains for a long time period. Guess what's not happening with March Madness right now? There isn't a great villain. We don't care about these athletes. We don't have someone that the country is rooting against the same way we did with Grayson Allen, and I think college basketball is suffering for that. And maybe it's because Coach K is no longer with Duke. Maybe he was the reason we all viewed Duke as villains, and we picked that one guy, whether it was Laettner, whether it was Redick, whether it was Allen. Maybe Coach K was the reason, but college basketball is really missing that villain factor, and it's why most people, I feel like, aren't that super into March Madness right now, because they don't have that villain. You could go even beyond Duke with that. Tyler Hansborough was a guy I loved rooting against when I watched college basketball. Those type of players don't exist anymore. Well, for one thing, they don't play college basketball that long anymore. They're all one and dones, or their second year, they're gone in the NBA. Grayson Allen played all 4 seasons at Duke University. We all had a history with Grayson Allen. We all had a history with J.J. Redick. We all had a history with Christian Laettner. We all had a history of despising them. We saw them win. We rooted against them. There isn't that anymore in college basketball. There's no central figure. We're all like, man, this guy is awful. He is the villain of college basketball. There is no villain of college basketball. And I'm left wondering if Grayson Allen is the last of his kind. Will there ever be another figure like that in college basketball? Will Duke be able to come up with another kid we all root against without Coach K coaching them? I wonder if it's over. If Grayson Allen is the last of his kind, what a time it was to root against Duke. If you're college basketball, you better root for someone else coming to the table that we can all root against, because people came together to root against the likes of Christian Laettner, to root against the likes of J.J. Redick, and to root against Grayson Allen. That to me has always been an underrated aspect of sports. Yes, we love rooting for teams, but we also love rooting against teams. It's why the Yankees being good is always good for baseball. It's why North Carolina and Duke being good is always good for college basketball. It's why LeBron James with the Miami Heat was great for the NBA. It's why the Golden State Warriors were great for the NBA, because people were rooting against them. They had a rooting interest against the team, which can be just as powerful as rooting for a team. It gets people to watch games they otherwise wouldn't have been interested in, and that's what Grayson Allen did for college basketball. I didn't get the whole Grayson Allen thing during his time at Duke. I never got the hype around that player. I never got him in the NBA until this year. This really has been a breakout season for Grayson Allen, and I have become a fan of his. I hope there's no future tripping incidents. I hope I don't regret recording this podcast. I think he's been the lone bright spot on an otherwise dull and boring Phoenix Suns team. They are not the team we thought they were going to be. Kevin Durant and Devin Booker is not the duo we thought they were going to be, and Bradley Beal has not brought that it factor to the Phoenix Suns. Although, looking back at it, I'm really curious as to why we ever thought that Bradley Beal would work out for the Phoenix Suns. He can remain healthy, and for his entire career, he's played for the lowly Washington Wizards. He's never won anything. Kevin Durant once again has picked the wrong super team to join. The next one he does end up joining needs to have a defensive elite player on it, or he's going to go through the same exact thing. You can't just win playing offense. I never thought I would say this on a podcast, but I'm excited for the future of Grayson Allen's career in the NBA. He has proven he can be a real X factor on a team. He's become a really good three-point shooter, and the NBA clearly needs all of those that they can get. Who knows what his future with the Phoenix Suns look like? All I know is I would take him on my team in an instant. He can be that microwave off the bench, or he can start. He's proven to me he's an NBA player this season. I had my doubts. I didn't like him in Milwaukee. I didn't like him in any of the other spots, but with the Phoenix Suns, he is thriving, and I think it's time for basketball fans to take notice. I leave you with this. For his entire basketball career, Grayson Allen has been viewed as a villain, and for the first time in his career, he is a hero for the Phoenix Suns. And I would definitely love for him to put on a show this postseason, even if it's only for the play-in tournament. I would love for Grayson Allen to be the reason that the Suns get into the playoffs. Role players still matter in the NBA, and Grayson Allen has been one of the league's best role players this season. Thanks for listening to this edition of Head to Head. I'm Cam McKinney, and there'll be a new episode of the podcast every Monday on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, so please rate, review, and subscribe.